police for black girl nerds.
It's always such a pleasure to talk to you. I love how much range you have. And every time I see you, it's something new and something excellent and something adding on to your tremendous rage. How are you doing this morning or afternoon?
Yeah, I'm doing good. All things considering in this crazy world, I'm hanging in there. you know.
That is excellent. I'm happy to see your dimples this morning because Carolyn has no dimples for us at all. During the course of Flack, we no smiles, no happy, just work, work, work.
Yeah. She's cold. She's quite a cold character. She's very focused and she's quite fierce.
Mm-hmm. It's what I find most interesting about her is even though she has that fierce reputation in a very strong way that she leads the rest of the staff, we might get a little chink in armor there, a little code switch here and there. Not very much. Not very much. But what would you say about Carolyn's work ethic? Is it all code when a person lets those chinks in? Can you call them entirely code?
No, of course not. I think she's been where these young girls have been. And so she knows, particularly Robyn, I think Robyn definitely reminds her of her younger self. And I think she's been quite a messy person in her younger life. And now she's got it together. So she definitely has the soft spots, but you're going to have to dig quite deep to find them. And she doesn't let it show very often. But if you don't keep up to her level, you're out. I mean, that's the thing. You just have to, if you're really good at what you do, she doesn't really care all the other mess in your life. But if you kind of don't keep up with it at work, then she has no time for you. So that's just Caroline. She's quite strict.
Watching all of our ladies, Carolyn and Robyn, and all of the other characters, it makes me think of all the publicists that I've talked to over the course of my career. I've never had to talk to a crisis publicist before, just kind of their specialty. Just, the happy people who connect us there. Yeah. When you think of all the publicists you've had to deal with in your life, do you base your character on any that you don't have to name them? But do you take from those exchanges and things that you've had over the years?
No, because like you said, I've never really had, the PRs that I've met have not been into crisis management. It's a different type of PR and they represent different types of people. Sure, some actors do need crisis management. I'm not one of those actors. So I've never really had to sort of come across that sort of PR. But, obviously I did ask a lot of PRs and I think a lot of these stories, even though they seem out there in the series, come from a sort of source of truth, according to Oliver.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, we hear.
I was going to say, if anybody watches any of the gossip columns or anything, we've seen some clear examples of that happening with different people.
Yeah, that's right. And then some people get away with stuff. They've got a very good team, and they kind of somehow manage to, just cover up stuff or just lie. We see how that works for many people right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Over the course of 2020 has been a hard year for a lot of people, but we still managed to see you in some really beautiful projects this year, successful with Nurse Ratched. Now we have Flack that is on the edge of people seeing and enjoying. How do you feel about this time in your career, despite what we have going on globally, but where you are now in your career?
Well, the weirdest thing was just before the pandemic really came, in March when it really sort of blew up last year. I had just had the busiest 2 years of my life. So I was just doing jobs and crossing over, sometimes doing 2 jobs at once. So it just, when everything stopped, everything was just coming out. So it looks like I'm always working. But even the job that I was in the middle of when the pandemic started, I'm still doing it now. And we actually only stopped for 3 months and then we managed to keep going again. So I've been for me, I've been very blessed. I've been working all the time. But I haven't been working in the theatre which is where I spend a good 30% of my career. And that's totally stopped. So that's been really frightening for, particularly, I mean, for many years, I was just a theatre actor and that was my bread and butter. That's what I lived off. So if I didn't do a theatre job, I couldn't pay my bills. I was like that for many years before I started doing television and film. So I can really, my heart, obviously the whole world's in crisis and everybody's jobs like are on the line, but I'm just talking about in particular to my job, the theatre and for the musicians, it's been so hard, you know, for anything that's live, it's been very, very hard over this last year. But I'm just hoping that it will, you know, come back. I think everybody's desperate for the arts and to be able to go out again and see things, and what I wouldn't give now to go and see a Broadway show, or, you know, I just would love to be able to do that again. So I'm sure that if I'm feeling that, a lot of people are feeling the same.
Artists like yourselves give us energy and take us out of our own harsh realities. And when we have those things taken away from us lay people who don't perform, people don't realize how important it is just to our well-being and our mental well-being and creativity, even if we don't participate in that field.
Yeah, just to watch it, because I'm getting a lot, even just by watching. I watch some of the stuff that the National Theatre are doing, putting plays online, and I watch some of the Royal Ballet, and I just watch loads of things, you know, during this time, just to sort of see people performing is so wonderful. Even on YouTube clips that people are doing in their living room, you know, playing whatever, it's just kind of nice to see people performing, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Do you find that it's hard to kind of celebrate these wins that you've had on TV, like finding the happy medium with being happy and blessed for the opportunities, but to see so many of your counterparts who are unable to work during this time, and you don't want to do too much or too little? Or
I can experience all those feelings all at the same time. I think I can experience joy and the blessing, and I feel a lot of gratitude for where I'm at, and I can also feel the sort of heartbreak of what's going on around the world as well. I think you can feel all those things at once, you know, so they don't discount each other. You know.
Right. As a theater performer, you mentioned you've been watching people do things online. Do you find yourself at home performing your own monologues? Like, how do you keep that energy?
Well, even like,
in you?
Yeah, so when I was in the very first like lockdown in Britain anyway, where you literally just couldn't go anywhere, and it's a bit like that again now, but everything closed and nobody knew what was going to happen because there was no vaccine, nothing, you know. That one, the way that I kept going is online. I used to meet with a friend of mine, another actor, and a director who I've worked with a lot, and we just went through a kind of Harold Pinter play. Like each week we just went through it, and he got a young director who she hasn't done much before to come on the Zoom and watch him direct her so she could be learning about directing. So I did that for quite a few weeks. And then I also worked on a play with another playwright and another couple of actors. And on Zoom, I managed to get quite a few things going, not for performance, but just to keep the creative flow going. Yeah. So that was good. But I didn't do as much reading. You know, I had a lot of plans during the lockdown. A lot of it was just cooking and cleaning. I'm just going to let you know, and tidying out my closet and that type of thing. And also I had all the kids back, and there was a lot of cooking and cleaning because everybody just kind of reverted to being like 11 years old again. I don't know what happened, but
it's a vicious cycle. It's like you clean the kitchen just to cook, to clean the kitchen again. I don't like this part of the adulting. I didn't want this part.
And especially when you've got grown-up kids that should be doing it themselves, but they came back home because of the pandemic, and then they reverted back to when they were last at home. So
of course, I can relate, and I'm sure a lot of our watchers can relate to that too, because everyone just became, well, at least in this household, became very helpless when it comes to the kitchen. So there's always that. With doing some of these Zoom connections with directors and other actors, have you ever considered doing one of those type of performances? We've seen a few where actors have gotten together and done it live, done like a reading and a reenactment.
I've been asked to do a few of those. I haven't really done them. I might do them now, but at first if I'm really honest, those first few months I was so focused on my family, I didn't really have time to think about anything else. I was just thinking what's going to happen, and you know, and everybody was at home, so I was so busy just doing the domestic stuff. I didn't really have time to sort of get on that train. But maybe I would now if it carries on,
I would like to see that for sure. Turning back to Flack and this tremendous Anna Paquin, just tremendous, strong women-led cast who they're strong and they're effective in their jobs, but they're still feminine and they possess all of these qualities and have to be all things to all people. How do these types of shows make the landscape better? Because there's still a disparity in how many true female-led shows that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose what was really nice about this show, there was just so many strong female parts, and it just wasn't just us lot. There were people coming in all the time, and so wherever you looked, it wasn't just you were the one exception. It was just there was lots going on, and I felt that was very. I was really lucky. I did that, and I did Ratchet, and I've been in a lot of shows where it's a lot of strong female characters. So I think it feels like there's been a bit of a shift recently, and that's been really good.
Was that by design, or did the universe just stack it that way for you?
Just stacked it that way. I just think about the type of things, like roles I would do, and I do put that out there a little bit, but then things come and I just get a kind of gut instinct about, yeah, this is a good part for me, or this isn't, or whatever. And sometimes it's like, I don't even know the reasoning, but it just kind of comes from somewhere else, and then I'm doing it. So.
Mm-hmm. Now that you're at this point in your career, like you mentioned, this has been a very, very busy time in your career for you. When you reflect back to some of those early days, is there advice you would give to that younger version of yourself of how to prepare for what is to come?
Looking back, the days are different now. It was much, much harder then when I started. There was literally like no roles for a Black woman at those. I mean, just like hardly anything when I started. And there wasn't, like, I'm talking like 25 years ago, you had a few things on, and in Britain, you forget it. It was just like, it just wasn't happening. And that's why I did like maybe 15 years of theatre, because there were the roles there, and I could play the Duchess of Malfi, or I could play whatever, because the directors weren't closed then. You could just do anything. And that's why I did many, many years of theatre. So I suppose I wouldn't tell myself not to do that if I look back, because that is what shaped me as a kind of, that's what made me hone my craft. That's why I do what I do now, because I spent many, many years not in the spotlight, getting it, like trying to make myself a better artist. So, and I wouldn't have had that if I had been, say, at that time Caucasian and just got the film role straight away and out into the world. And, my contemporaries at that time when I started were like Kate Blanchett, Rachel Weisz, Kate Winslet. I'm thinking about people that, that I was on that sort of, but I wouldn't stand a chance going out for the roles that they were going out for at that time. They just weren't there. They were not there. So I had to go away and do other stuff. And even though that shouldn't have been the case, there should have been the parts for me, but it's just, that has made me who I am. And so can't really, I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't change that. Yeah, so.
And lastly, again, where folks are on the verge of seeing Flack, it's a really cool show. The women are fascinating, and they all, although they do the same thing, they have very, very different personalities. If you could swap with any of the characters, which of the ladies would you want to swap with for, say, like an episode?
I quite like Eve as a character. I mean, she's from the same mold as Caroline, so that was quite good. But I do love Caroline. I think that my character is really good. I love her. I don't want to play anything else. Sorry.
That's okay. And the fashion is on point. Caroline's fashion is together.
So nice. She's together. She's much better put together than I. I'm quite messy.
Yeah. That is amazing. Sophie, you are so wonderful and so beautiful and talented. Thank you for your time. I love seeing you in all the things that you do, and look forward to seeing you in many, many, many more.
Thank you. I will be reading all about it on your website.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
shake your booties for black girl nerds.